Do you have a love-hate relationship with condoms?
You love the safety it provides you and your partner, but you hate the feel or how it fits.
We're going to tell you how to pick a better condom.
Welcome to Swinger University with Ed and Phoebe.
Let's talk about measurements. There are two measurements that you want to be aware of: circumference and length. Your size is going to be unique to you. So don't assume whatever is on the shelf is going to fit you. Marketing has a way of adding really fancy names to their condoms to sell you something new and different, right? So you'll see Anaconda, you'll see Mega. So if you happen to be a girthier gentleman, don't assume that those condoms are going to fit you, because when in fact, those adjectives that they're using to market to you really are a regular size condom.
Right. They're trying to appeal to your ego and not necessarily give you an accurate size.
Exactly.
Let's talk about condom materials. There are three main materials that condoms are made out of. Latex, it's the thickest, it is stretchy, and it's less likely to slip because of the texture of the latex itself and how it sticks to your skin. There's polyisoprene. It's thinner. It's actually stretchier than latex. It has a soft texture to it. It's clear, odorless, and if you have a latex allergy, these are great condoms to use. Now, one thing to be aware of is because it's odorless, it's actually a really good condom for other activities besides intercourse. They can be a little bit of a sloppy fit if you're not girthy, and they can slip off, which is pretty important to think through and make sure that you get the right size. These have to fit well.
And it's really important when you're having playtime in the lifestyle, because you want to have the condom that works for you. You want to bring your own condom. Frequently, events, parties, clubs will have a bowl of condoms available for you to use, but it's a grab bag, literally, because you don't know, unless you're really familiar with the brands, how they fit you. So that's why we always take ours. There's no chance of it slipping. It's always a good fit every single time. And if you have a latex sensitivity, I always bring my own, latex-free condoms, because a lot of people don't carry those.
Another thing to be aware of too is a lot of those cheaper or more inexpensive condoms will have strange lubricants on them. Sometimes they'll even have spermicidal lubricants on them, which can really mess with your pH and, well, a woman's pH and her balance in her vagina.
Exactly.
One thing to be really aware of with polyisoprene: do not use oil lube. Coconut oil as a lube in general is a really bad idea. There's lots of reasons not to use coconut oil and not to use oil in general as a lube. And we cover that in one of our lube episodes where we talk about some of the benefits of really good lube.
Right.
The last material is polyurethane. It's the thinnest. It has no odor or taste, just like the polyisoprene. And it doesn't insulate, which is interesting because your body heat gets transmitted both directions. So it actually starts to feel a little bit more like you're not playing with a condom, which is super cool.
Exactly. And the only condom I could find on the market that is made of this material is Okamoto. They call their condom material Sheerlon, and they say it feels like bareback. And I will tell you, we have tried this condom, and it was quite amazing. In fact, the condom was so thin that you couldn't even tell there was anything in the package. That's how thin it was.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing. There is a downside to them, though, because they're so thin and the material itself, it's lower in elasticity, so it doesn't stretch that much. It can slip off because it has to be a really good fit, and you have to be pretty hard for it to work properly. It's also 5 times more likely to split or break, which means that it's less STI effective.
Right.
And the last downside for this, they're expensive.
Oh my gosh, so expensive. They're like $3 to $5 each. So you might want to save it for that really special person because they're not cheap. Thick or thin. The average in the US for thick and thin condoms are about 40 micrometers thick. And the range is really broad. In the US, it is 95 to 15 micrometers.
Yes.
And in Germany, their average is about 18 micrometers. Japan is where it gets down to the really thin micrometer of 0.001 or 1 micrometer, but 0.001 millimeters. That's where that bareback feel comes into play with those $3 to $5 condoms. For some reason, the US doesn't have these a condom that thin. I'm not sure exactly why. It's probably a safety issue. We know that Japan is very strict on their protocols and testing, and they're very proactive with using condom and protection and birth control. So they do rely on these condoms for protection, the 0.001s and 0.003s.
Right.
So it's just their requirements for safety and protection are different from the US. So if you want to buy one, you have to really hunt for it. We were lucky enough to find a 0.003 or 4 on Amazon, but we had to buy the 0.001 from a website, I think it was called Condom World. So, and you pay a hefty price, but you should check them out. They're kind of fun.
One of the reasons often that the US standards are different than international standards are how we test things. And a lot of times, in order to pass a specific test, you have to change your product to pass that test. As an example, totally aside, helmet safety standards are different in the US than in Europe because of the method in which they test. So the testing method here in the US, it's quite possible that the thinner condoms wouldn't pass just because of the kind of test. We use a water test where they basically stick the condom on a tube and they pump water into it, a large amount of water into it. And that's a lot different than sex.
Right. I'm not sure how Japan tests theirs exactly, but I know our regulation is to pass that water leak test.
Right.
I'm assuming Japan has very rigorous testing. And like you said, their own method of testing, it just doesn't meet the same requirements over here because it's totally different test.
Exactly. So let's talk about testing and safety.
Yeah.
Safety, which is one of the main reasons that you use condoms, especially in the lifestyle. Birth control is also important, but most of the time what we're concerned about is STIs and the transmission of STIs.
Right.
Japan has a very long history of innovation and quality, so their condoms are safe. They're also fairly innovative because they're so thin. They fit differently than any of the other condoms that are on the market.
Right.
The US has FDA regulations on the thinness and, of course, as we've mentioned, that water leak test. So we know that they're safe. They're just not as comfortable.
Right. And the safety factor also plays into that size factor. So if you are playing with a very thin condom and it is that polyurethane, you really have to pay attention to it not slipping off. But honestly, I will say, if you're not buying the right condom for you and you're in the grab bag at a house party or a club and you're throwing on a condom that's not your fit, chances are it's gonna slip off. I mean, it has happened to me. So people, I just encourage either use the right condoms or bring your own and interview the guy and go, you want this one, or this one? That sometimes works for us. So you all have to be your best advocate for safety. So in closing, if you want a better experience, you can, measure, right? Use some of the charts that we provide in the notes. I've got great links for you. Buy some condoms, buy a bunch of condoms and experiment. And think about the cost, right? You want to spend that $3 to $5 or, leave it for your special partners, or do you want to, you just go with the thicker ones and, your general play, right? And obviously you will want to assess your own level of safety and the percentage of breakage and slippage. So there's a lot of things to consider. And, how easy is it to put on? You're in the heat of the moment. How easy is it to get on, and how safe is it for your other partner in the form of lubricants and spermicides and things like that?
We'll also provide links and some photos of the condoms that we use when we play.